So if he wanted to add an F1 team, I don't see why he wouldn't. And certainly this step he's taken with Mercedes, the #1 team in the world, is very much a part of that. And I think we may see that. Both sides, Mercedes and Ineos, saying that it was a perfect fit for both of them.
Just watching the steering wheel again, it's funny that ever since we've noticed it, we've not seen any live shots of Hamilton adjusting the steering wheel. Hamilton on 44 laps of the day, 4 ahead of Charles Leclerc's 40. Those are the most so far, along with Romain Grosjean for Haas. So the Mercedes speculation continues, but has anything hugely struck you about getting into the paddock for the first time, meeting the different personalities? The thing that got me when I basically went from fan who picked up a microphone occasionally to doing this full time was the scale of every single Grand Prix. It is an amazing feeling, and there's a buzz. Even at testing there's a buzz.
There is, I know, it's just testing, and even here I almost feel like it's a race weekend. I think the weather helps because it's glorious out there. Chilly first thing, but basically glorious. For me, the scale of it is absolutely bang on. In Belgium, that was my first Grand Prix last year, my first and only Grand Prix so far last year, and I just was standing in the paddock looking bright-eyed, bushy-tailed at everything, going, oh my goodness me, it is enormous. I did do some rallycross last season, so I came from the scale of the rallycross paddock compared to the scale of an F1 paddock, and everyone I'd known in rallycross said, you are not going to believe your eyes when you see the scale of an F1 paddock and the scale of an F1 Grand Prix weekend, and how brilliant it is, and how much of a wonderful sport it is. I think it's worth noting as well that it may have this image of being quite an exclusive sport, an elite sport, lots of money and so forth, but actually it's an incredibly friendly sport as well. The motorsport family is so welcoming.
It's great to get a fresh pair of eyes on, because you can get used to it, and you cannot get ungrateful, but you can take things for granted. So it's been great to have you absolutely bouncing off the walls. You're buzzing to be here. The enthusiasm's coming through, and it's great to have you on the team this year, Laura. It's fantastic to have you there. So we can see Lewis Hamilton heading down to turn 10. He is currently 5th in the order. It's Perez, Ricciardo, Gasly, Leclerc, then the driver you're looking at, the reigning world champion, then Albon and Russell in 7th. Kimi Raikkonen is underneath, and the last of the drivers running. Oh, Grosjean's just popped up to 7th. Then it's Russell, Raikkonen and Norris. So it is, as we see Lewis Hamilton going through the final corner, we can throw down trackside to Rosanna Tennant and the Rookie of the Year in 2020, Nicholas Latifi, who's going to give us his insight by the side of this circuit.
Nicholas Latifi, so good to see you. The last time we spoke was in Abu Dhabi last year, and just when you were making that step on from F2 to F1, you are now a Formula 1 driver. How is it suiting you?
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty cool feeling, and yeah, I think the last time we spoke I was actually crying a bit because I was in the...
I wasn't going to mention that. I was doing you a favour there.
Yeah, but no, yeah, things have been going... of the work I've been doing with them the previous year, so kind of just business as usual and just continue. Yeah, definitely. I don't know how many days I've spent at the factory so far from Abu Dhabi till now, but it's been a lot of time spent speaking with the engineers, a lot of hours and laps in the simulators, so yeah, all very important stuff.
The great thing is, testings at Barcelona, a track that you know so well. Of course, you won here last year, so it's familiar territory. How are you approaching it, though? Because, of course, new machinery. I know you say you're quite comfortable in a Williams machine, but just talk us through this track and how you get used to dealing with it.
Yeah, so this track in general, I think it's probably the one where not just Formula 1 drivers, but most drivers who race in Europe probably have the most amount of laps on, because it kind of is like the testing track, the baseline track. It's a track where I think most Formula 1 teams do use for most of their simulator driving. So yeah, I mean, in general, it has a bit of everything: slow, medium, high-speed corners, some elevation, bankings. So that's why it's such a good test track, because you get to kind of experience the whole range of what the car goes through. I mean, me personally, let's say, I mean, now in these current F1 cars, the first sector is really only just one corner, because the rest of it is kind of flat. Yeah, so you kind of have turn one, and that kind of dictates the rest of it. Second sector is quite tricky, because you have the downhill braking corners, where I kind of threw away a Formula 2 race win there a few years ago, so I know that one all too well.
Crush over that now.
Yes, but then the last sector can be quite tricky actually. So kind of where we're standing now, it's normally where you start to get some rear tire degradation, so you start to feel the rear going away, sliding a bit more, and then especially kind of in the chicane here, very tricky corner to get right, especially because of the two softest curves. If you just think them a little bit wrong, then the car kind of goes all over the place, and it's really damaging to lap time. So you feel when you've nailed the whole lap together and you kind of strung everything perfect, but it can be quite difficult to do here.
And of course, when it comes to qualifying in Spain a little later on this year, I guess this part's incredibly important to set yourself up for a lap. If you overcook it in this part, does that mean your chances of setting a lap are over?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, normally when you're setting up the lap, you prepare the exit of the first part of the chicane much more, just so you could get